And I'm so glad you guys got to at least see what you saw and heard from Marty, because he's such a just interesting dude.
I think he's super interesting. I even
yeah.
said to Trish, I was like, you got to hear his personal story, which is great, and the people that he hires. I said, but the last tour that we did was like so much more in depth that you like you walked away like really loving the guy.
Yeah.
So you only got a portion of it.
Yeah, and he loves what he does so much, and because Marty really does have this special story, and he knows so much about our logistics. It's super fascinating. He's such an open book about what we do and proud of it. That I really love that. Is to really, embrace our resellers. When we first started this podcast, I had no idea, the Get Thrifty podcast, I really had no idea how valuable the resellers are to our business. Some people are very hidden. Some people are, kind of, the ones that have trouble, I wanted to say this, the ones that have trouble in our stores are the ones who are like sneaky about it, right? Like, just be an open book. I want our managers to embrace resellers because I'm learning their stories and understanding the value you guys bring to our stores. You're repeat customers. You don't necessarily care about those deal days. You shop on the off deal days. You actually actively avoid my Saturday sale. So you're like a really valuable customer. You're willing to pay a higher price than our regular, shopper that's searching for a deal. And I love the local feel of it all. We always want to have that local feel. When it says shop local, that includes your local thrift store. And I want to be included in that. And those are resellers as well. Like, there really is a huge value in welcoming resellers with, being open and being welcoming and saying, yes, pull out your cameras. 10 years ago, I would get a call anytime a reseller walked in with a camera or a phone. They're filming in our store. Panic would ensue, right? What is that? No, we're going to change that. So I started preaching that. It's been almost 5 years that we've really pushed that narrative of welcome your resellers. It's so much more valuable to me from a marketing perspective to have resellers talking about how cool my store is, so much better than me saying it. And I'm going to scream that from the rooftops. That call me when a reseller, welcome them. Offer them a voucher, let them shop, stay a little bit later if you need to, because these are people who are going to really talk online about how great that store is. And I noticed that the managers who embrace their resellers they have better sales. It's just a fact. So that in turn helps operations. And I think operations is coming around to that feeling as well. But it takes time to break old habits, right? So I try and be patient. And I think doing things like welcoming your resellers that are, eBay top sellers to my back rooms and kind of showing what's happening underneath our skirts is really valuable to you guys. I want to be transparent about how we run our recycle. And to me, that's what this kind of thing is all about, being open and honest and transparent.
And I also think, I don't know how you feel about this, Vic, but I also think as a reseller, if you feel welcome at some place, you're apt, as Maggie said, that you'll pay a little bit more because you can go constantly, you feel welcomed, and it's more of a partnership. Then I think a lot of times we have been relegated relegated to the back room, and we feel like, I'm getting a great deal on this, but I may never come back to this place because they don't know I'm reselling it. They don't want to know what I'm doing with it. Or if they did know what I'm doing with it, they may ban me, AKA Target.
Yeah, Target does not like resellers. And, part of what you're saying is your resellers are probably your most profitable customers too. Mm-hmm. The casual customer that's coming in, the casual consumer that's coming in every once in a while, buying things for their home or for private use is a much lower ticket item or average sale than your reseller that's coming in once a week, in some cases 2-3 times a day to a specific store to find their deals. They're spending way more money over time than an individual that's purchasing for themselves or their home.
Absolutely.
So all of those things combined, it should be a mutually beneficial transaction, and making sure that it's visible to resellers and that they are valued as your consumers, as your part of your target audience. That really does go a long way, because I agree with what Trish says. Take away the fact of what your organization does in the community that it helps, which I think is encouraging to purchase from anyway. But add that to the fact that you're having a welcome transaction and you're welcome in their stores and yay, I applaud you for buying this for $4 and selling it for $100. Like those are the types of things that are going to make resellers specifically go to your locations and shop from your stores.
Well, and the fact that you don't compete with resellers, and I say we as in resellers are always in a position where we're trying to compete with the store or compete with whomever. And that is a difficult, you're always behind the 8 ball, right? They always have talk pick. And then it's only the stuff that maybe they don't know about. And
you gotta wait to catch them slipping.
Right. And while you have, we learned this on the tour, that you have pricers, right? And they know, and they kind of set their prices according to what sells, how fast, and all those things. But you're just trying to get a fair market value for that price at that level, right?
Yes.
You're not competing against online. You're not trying to get waiting on an item, sitting on it, finding that special collector, doing all the things, taking all the photos, doing all the research. So we're never in competition with ARC, which I think is absolutely the moral of the story, really.
And I'll also say, as someone that has shopped quite a few of the stores multiple times, I will say that ARC's pricing in general or overall is very good. In the past few years, I've noticed the prices have come up a little bit. That's market. It's what has happened everywhere, because the costs of overhead have obviously gone up everywhere.
Yeah, we're paying higher wages. Yep, higher wages, higher cost of living. It's all the things. But you touched on something really that is a core tenet for ARC, is that we value price. That's the goal. But it's a numbers game, and changing that narrative for the reseller so they understand that we're not price gouging you.
Right.
The production goals are so ludicrous. I'm just going to be honest. I don't even know how they do it. And they increase year over year. Yeah, so every year they've got to produce more.
Seeing the increase in prices across the board with other thrift stores, yours have only marginally increased, comparatively speaking. And I source and thrift all over the country, really. I mean, I've been in many, many areas of the country, and I've said this many times, and I'm not saying it just because you're in front of me right now, but ARC chain is my favorite thrift stores to shop from. I love the Goodwill bins. I do not love every Goodwill. In fact, I will actively avoid shopping inside of a Goodwill store for the most part, because they're all regionally owned and the pricing is all over the place. And they also, most of them have an online presence. So they do cherry pick and pull anything that I would think would be good. So like I said, you have to catch them slipping to get a good deal. Right. And that's not a good use of my time as a volume-based reseller.
Right.
A good use of my time is being able to walk into an ARC thrift store and fill 3 shopping carts like I did a couple of years ago, and in one store, and then go back the next week and fill another 2 carts.
I love that.
Same store. Yeah. That is your Academy location. That I is probably my favorite location. And I really enjoy being able to do that. If I'm going to make good use of my time, I want it to be, 100 items, not 5 items.
Well, and I also think that there are different kinds of resellers, right? Vicki and I are both volume based. And so we will pay maybe a little bit more to be able to go to one place and to get enough items that it's worth our time. We are not people who are going to go through every single rack and only walk out of a store with 5 items.
Yeah. That would be a worse,
right. We would hate that. So I also think the great thing about ARC is that both kinds of resellers can be successful there. You can find resellers who are just looking for a really hard ROI. You're looking for, or ASP, I should say. They just want items that are worth $100 or more. Maybe they can go in and find 5 in 5 hours, where Vic and I can go in and get 4 carts full of stuff in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so it can work for all kinds of resellers.
I love that. And, to hear that our competitors are, creating more of an adversarial, I just don't have, I just have zero patience for it. Like, what a missed opportunity for them. But I'm glad that they're doing it that way, because then you'll come to me, Now, I always say there's a caveat, we've looked at doing bins. We can't financially make it work. We've done 5 different business cases just during the time that I've been here on trying to build an e-commerce site, can't make it work. It's just financially, it doesn't make sense for us. We run really lean at the top, and our goal is to turn over product as much as possible. And who tells us the most about our refreshed item is the reseller. The feedback we get from resellers is super beneficial to operations. And that's another reason to keep you guys happy is, turning over that product as quickly as possible. I always say it's a numbers game. It truly is. No one is spending time in that back room trying to Google lens something. I mean, if it's something really spectacular, they might, because it's going to go to the showcase or whatever. But come on, clothing, especially that ladies department, that girl is a veteran. It's usually a woman. She's been with us for 10 plus years. It's the most coveted position in that back room, and they turn the most items, and they are proud of it. And they are looking at a sales and an average ticket, and it's run like traditional retail. The only difference is we don't have 20 of one item. We have one of one. Mm-hmm. That's a crazy business model. But to think that good thrift stores that are doing well and making a profit are in those back rooms trying to gouge a reseller, no one got time for that.
No, you're never going to walk into an ARC store and see, like you will in some other stores, their red tag merchandise, any brand that they think is a brand name that's recognizable, that's going for an exorbitant, barely off retail price, that you have to wait for it to have the 50% off sale or the 99-cent day sale. You don't
and even
have
that, sometimes they don't allow those ones to go on sale.
Correct. It's like once a month. And you don't have to do that at an ARC store. I love that you do seasonality. I love that you have your kids sales, your sweater sale, your jean sales to clear out the racks. You do $2 sweater sale or 99-cent sweater sale, I think.
Yep.
$2 jean sales. And then they have the kids sales as well. I don't do kids clothes, but I've flown into Denver to go to the sweater sale. Yeah, I have flown into Denver a couple of times to be there specifically in September, late August, early September, when they start putting out the Halloween items, because the Halloween always has a lot of really original vintage stuff in it. Oh, yeah. And I've done that twice. The first time it was not on purpose. I just happened to be there that time of the year. And the second time was, when do you start putting out your Halloween stuff so that I can come and get there early? And it's such good stuff. That first time that I went by accident was the time that I filled 4 carts.
Yeah. And Colorado Springs is kind of known for that. And then up north, I mean, you guys come back, I'd say the northern stores, you've got to check out those Fort Collins, Greeley, the funky ones up north.
Yeah. And I've never made it to those.
Yeah. Yeah. They're really unique. That's where we start our earliest Halloween because of that campus up there at CSU. But, I do worry. I'm so glad to hear that feedback. Of course, I want my operations to be, top notch, but the more I read about fast fashion and this and that, I'm just getting nervous. I mean, that would be a question I'd have for the two of you. You specialize in vintage. Are you seeing less of it? I'm worried. My gut says we're okay, but I do want that feedback. If you come again this year, what are you seeing? We're doing our pickups a little differently. Donations are a little different looking at that back door. We're just trying to decide, are we going to lose some of that? We don't know. It's a fear. It's something we're discussing internally.
I'm still seeing plenty of vintage out in the wild. I'm still finding plenty of vintage. I will say the market is changing as far as selling. Mm-hmm. I still have core buyers, and there's a core audience for every decade of vintage for sure. But I will say that I've definitely in the last couple of years seen a slip in my vintage sales, and I've had to supplement with newer, more modern brands, which I don't really care for. Mm-hmm. Not the fast fashion ones per se, not the ones that you think of as fast fashion, but really anything made now is fast fashion. Yeah. I don't care what brand name they stick on it. They're all made similarly. So I've definitely had to supplement my vintage sales with that, or I'd be starving. So
that Y2K stuff and all that, like that's going to have to be part of your repertoire now.
It is 90s. And I mean, the sad thing is Y2K is considered vintage. That's pathetic to me, but
my heart. I agree.
It's awful. We feel 100 years old. But even the common, normal mall brand type things that I pick up, not because of brand, but I'll pick up certain things that I know were in fashion or in style that I wouldn't normally have picked up years ago. I wouldn't pick up something that was made poorly just because it looks a certain way. Yeah. And now I will, because that's kind of what's selling. And I have to cater to all different price points. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it definitely, I've seen a change in the market trends. I do try to stay on top of them. My business wouldn't have survived since 1998 if I didn't pay attention But it's slow turning, and it takes time to try and learn the new trends and learn what the new market is demanding. And, economy struggles right now across the board. So, fashion and selling fashion has its own host of issues.
Okay. But just to change the subject slightly by what you just said, I meant to say this a minute ago. I also think that there is something really good in allowing resellers to make a living based and help your organization at the same time. Because I am convinced that most resellers, I don't think you and I fall in this category, but most resellers are reselling for a reason. Either it's health reasons, they can't work a regular job, and they might be on disability, full-time disability. If they didn't, I think there are mothers who are be able to stay home with children because of the reselling. I think most people are not like Vic and I and have a full-fledged business. I think a lot of resellers, even when they are making full-time money, are doing it because of something else.
They have limitations in some other way, whether that's physical limitations, emotional limitations. They're taking care of aging parents. We are all in that category right now. That's where our demographic lies in our age bracket. Aging parents, children that have special needs, children that are being homeschooled. If you've got 3 kids, it does not make sense to put your kids in daycare and get a job unless you're making a really good living. It's really hard to be that caregiving parent and make a functional living outside of the home these days.
But I also think because of that reselling has a place where for people who are making it work for themselves instead of maybe, doing something else or getting on disability or whatever. And so for me, that's also kind of a noble thing in a sense of, and I'm not trying to use the word nobly passively, but more like it's a win-win for you and for them,
Absolutely.
It's a mutual beneficial symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things we've learned when we started the Get Thrifty podcast, now going on 3 years, is highlighting those stories of those interesting men and women with the most, like you said, it's helping single parents. It's helping parents with kids who have special needs, college students that can't afford to put themselves through college. Their parents can't help them. I've heard every kind of story, and being able to highlight those. And then in turn, that is content that person can use and I can use. It's a win-win. I couldn't agree more.
I agree with that. Another branch that we haven't talked about very often, but does also exist, is people that may have a criminal past and find it very difficult to get employment because they may not have an ARC near them that helps employ people and give people a second chance. This is the type of job that you can do your background does not matter. Your education level does not matter. Your education doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got a felony in your background or something like that. You have the ability to be a successful entrepreneur, regardless of the limitations you may have out in the 9-to-5 world.
And I also think that being an entrepreneur is traditionally a very expensive endeavor, right? That to get started in any kind of business takes capital that most people do not have. And so if you have the internal drive to do something, reselling is a stepping stone for almost anybody across the board.
Oh, yeah.
You can get into this
with
for
zero
money. You can
sell things in your own closet.
Yep. And you can get free things. I have a woman, I do a mastermind class every day, Monday through Friday. And I have a woman there. Her entire business model is basically free things. She will get things on the curb. She will get things. She does thrift as a supplement when she can't get enough stuff. But when she started, it was all free. And and so there is a way to get in this business. And then with something like ARC to be the next step, that it's mutually beneficial. And I really think that is something that we don't talk about enough. And I think we should a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. And I wish more thrift stores would get on board with this way of thinking.
Totally.
I would love to do, more macro type marketing where it's thrifting. I get tons of news exposure when it's National Thrift Store Day. And why aren't we doing campaigns with our local mom and pops and the Goodwills and the anyone here in Colorado? I'd love to do some more macro marketing. My CEO is totally open to that conversation. And we're just not there yet. It's like you said, your business has evolved. Our businesses are evolving. I would like to believe that we're on the front lines of that and that we're going to usher in the next generation of this being, something we talk about out loud and it's not a secret. But it's going to take time and it will be an evolution. We'll see. I feel really strongly about Albuquerque, our new market. We just opened a store there. We're looking at a second store already. And that may be where that happens. I think that market's more, we're just a little too competitive here in Colorado. People are freaked out of us here. We're the behemoth, which is so bizarre, because our money goes directly to the 15 ARC chapters. If a chapter calls me during the day, that is the call. I will stop everything. I don't care what I'm doing. I've answered calls from my chapters in the middle of a lake in Florida before. I don't care. I work for them. My goal is to get them as much money as possible. Now, they are very kind. Shout out to my 15 ARC chapters. They let me do what I do best, which is marketing. I don't understand the advocacy part. I don't, know what they go through in trying to provide help to families who have kids with special needs. That is a whole other ballgame. I would not pretend to get into their world, but they give me the freedom and my CEO the freedom and my COO the freedom to run our stores like a business. And we are hardcore, my expertise is marketing, not special needs. Let them do what they need to do, and I will make you as much money as possible. And it has been a really great relationship. And I'm kind of building that in New Mexico right now too. The Arc of New Mexico has been so cool to us so far. And we're just going to build on that and hopefully bring them as much money as possible. It's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. I think that's great.
We may have to go to New Mexico.
I mean, that might be next time.
Pretty radical. And the story of New Mexico is pretty interesting. We actually moved our lovely couple, Gustavo and Julio. They've been married for a bit, and they ran Broomfield and a separate store, or Brighton and another store here in Denver. And when we put out the call that we were looking to open New Mexico, I wanted Gustavo because he has this like $1 million smile and could do marketing, and Julio runs a badass store. So I was like, oh my God, if they move, it could be like this power couple in New Mexico opening stores. And that all came to life. And the brainchild of Eric Martinez, he came up with this and really, got it going. And now I've got this guy with $1 million smile and his husband down there running a really cool store. They're breaking like every record and just
that's
doing
awesome.
Really well.
That's awesome.
Pretty exciting.
Well,
really great.
Thank you for taking the time and talking to us, and that we were able to get some of this information that we couldn't quite get with our big group. But also tell us about your podcast. Good.
So we started the Get Thrifty podcast about 3 years ago, and we had no clue how it would evolve. We've met people from all over the world, and our goal really is to normalize shopping secondhand. Make it normal for people to, whether you're making a living or you're upcycling or you're totally into fashion, whatever it is, we want to hear your story, and we welcome every kind of person you could possibly imagine to join us on the podcast. We'd love it if you follow us. You can always find me on Instagram at Podcast with Maggie. Reach out. Anything at all that has to do with shopping secondhand, we want to talk to you. And I'd love it if someone from Goodwill would eventually reach out. That's like my big goal here. I'm hoping that happens eventually. But we've had every kind of person, every age, from like as young as 14 to as old as 75. So anything in between, it's an open book. And the idea is really normalizing shopping secondhand.
So do you think there's still a stigma about that?
I always ask this question lately about, is it okay to thrift a gift? And I think that's really what's changing. I get more calls from local news than ever. I've got the local magazines now reaching out to do tours with Marty and really understand our recycling. I think that stigma has gone away tremendously. I love this Gen Z, Gen Alpha finding thrift. Couldn't be more delighted to have those people on our podcast and share their stories, because they're truly taking us into the future and normalizing it for us, talking about it online. We meet people in this world that would rather be caught dead than wearing something from the big box retailers. They are so proud of their thrift finds. And I couldn't be more excited about what the future holds for that. And being open to those kinds of things, those kids who walk into every single store with their phone out recording, those are the people that we need to really welcome, because otherwise we're not going to have a business. We've got to think about that. The longevity of thrift is at stake. And if we don't embrace this, we're going to have problems. That's my opinion. And that's how I'm going to treat this narrative going forward with my managers.
So let me ask you a question. How do you feel about thrifted gifts? I'm just wondering.
I love thrifted gifts. First of all, I think most of the gifts, or a lot of the gifts we received on the road, were people that are thrifters, and I have people send to me things all the time. Usually in this community, that's the thing. I will buy thrifted gifts for someone like my daughter or other friends that understand what I do. I don't always buy thrifted gifts, but I very often will pick up something because this makes me think of you. This makes me think of you. And I am way more willing to do that with something that's very inexpensive. And I do that all the time. My love language is gift giving and acts of service. That's how I present to other people. I do it with my friends. I do it with family members. That's just what I do. I welcome a thrifted gift. It means that you took the time to find something that made you think of me somewhere out. And it wasn't just a gift card or, some random tchotchke, those are welcome as well. But I really like when I get a thrifted gift personally.
So it's interesting. So, I'm 52, for, full disclosure, I'm 52. I would never give somebody a thrifted gift at this moment in my life. Yeah. My daughter is 32. And she and her friends have a pact where that's all they do. Mm-hmm. They do not give each other things that you spend. You can spend money. You can go to the thrift store, but not new.
Not retail. Yeah.
Not retail. And they also, she has friends who have children, and they have the same thing for those kids. They buy things that
buy a used toy, used clothes.
So if I saw something vintage for you, I would buy that. Vintage to me or antique to me is different than something I don't know. And this is my livelihood. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
I guess your daughter doesn't mind when I buy her thrifted things because I've sent her thrifted things.
She loves it. But now, would I buy her something thrifted? Yes. Have I given her thrifted things a million times? But if I brought my mother a thrifted shirt,
she'd be insulted.
I think my mother would be insulted.
It's an evolution, right?
Yeah. It's not everybody. I wouldn't buy my mother something thrifted either.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Unless she actually sent me a message a couple weeks ago and she needed a pizza pan. She wanted to try this cauliflower pizza recipe. She didn't want to buy it. Can you find me one at the thrift store? So if she tells me to get her something, but she's in her 70s. But people bring me Dolly Parton stuff, send it to me from all over the country. And I'm just a huge fan of this, taking away that stigma about how it's okay. I'm with you, Vicki, that it's a gift from the heart. Someone took the time. Thrifting is no joke. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes work. It takes effort. It's blood, sweat, equity invested into walking into a thrift store, in my opinion. So if I see something that screams someone, I'm going to get it for them. And you're right. It depends on the age, but it's an evolution. Where are we going to be 10 years from now? Is this going to be the norm? Are people going to be like, oh, I would never shop retail. That's disgusting. It's bad for the environment. We're getting there.
We're getting there for sure.
Well, and I think there's a whole group of people.
I refuse to shop big box stores.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole group of people, our daughter's age, who they will go to thrift first before they'll go to a big box store. When they go to the big box store, it's because they can't get what they need somewhere else.
That's my daughter for sure.
Mine too.
And my daughter is not a reseller. Trish's daughter runs her business reluctantly. Mine doesn't resell, but I've been reselling her entire life. She will absolutely shop on eBay, Etsy, Poshmark.
Oh yeah, Liz too.
And thrift stores before she will ever buy anything.
And they brag about it. I am obsessed with the bragging, like, our girl at Dina Days who's like, thanks, it's thrifted. That is something I hear all the time.
My daughter sent me a message yesterday. Look, Mom, I picked up a dress and a jacket. I got it at Goodwill, $7. Blah, blah.
And
Send me
those are the
pictures.
ones that like I'm really into this whole influencer marketing thing. And I have this conversation with my ops guy about these young gals who like show their outfits. They're not even resellers. They just exclusively shop thrift fashion. And they will send me the most cute videos. A girl of 25 who's doing this with 50,000 followers, her video gets so many more views and is so much more valuable to me than anything that I could put together or pay my agency to do. I'm obsessed with the influencer marketing. Tag me, send me your content, collaborate with me. That's the wave of the future I hope I'm right. I don't know. I always say marketing is like throwing a dart at a dartboard. You never know with your eyes shut because you just never know. But I think this influencer marketing is so much more valuable. It's like a customer review, but in a video and when they're standing in my store, I'm like giddy.
So
Mid-Mod Marion, if I can see my logo in the background, I die for her, you know?
So let me ask you a question. So in the influencer marketing in your head, you're going after people to come in and shop. You're not going after resellers.
Yeah, no, I just want the shopper. So typically I don't always utilize some resellers I utilize, but the majority of my influencers that do content with me are just girlies who thrift. They love to thrift. They show their hauls, they show their outfits. Their business could be that they thrift shop for others and get paid to do so. I've got life coaches. I've got every size gal you could possibly think of, from tiny and tattooed to plus size girlies who are absolutely obsessed with shopping thrift because they feel it's a more inclusive shopping. They're not always people that I have on the pod necessarily, but they're locals. They love ARC, and we find them on, they may have tagged me in something that they were just out shopping with their girlfriends. And we're like, hey, would you want to make some content for us? Absolutely. And here's the best part. I pay in vouchers. So they just want to go shop. And they get really excited about it. And they do this great content that, again, is so much more valuable than me saying it's a great place to shop. When they say it and they show what they got, it's so much better. And I have very few rules for that influencer. Don't show too many price tags. Like I don't love that kind of content. Show me the outfit, show me the cool thing, show me how you decorated it, show me the party you set up for, whatever. And then always refer to me as ARC, lowercase ARC. That's it.
And I know a couple people that have done influencer contracts with ARC, and it's always that type of light, airy, stuff. If you follow their content, Mid-Mod Marion, who she referenced, she is a reseller, but she also she goes shopping, like she said, 2-3 times a day in one store, and that's how she always gets the things. And it's funny because we will definitely reference her frequently, myself and a couple of other people that and be like, darn it, Mid-Mod Marion got there first. Mid-Mod Marion got that great thing before we got there. You need to get back out there. Mod Marion's.
Listen, she goes 3 days, times a day. She deserves all the things.
Fair.
Yeah.
True.
And I can utilize them because I have a really great relationship with my local TV stations. To me, that's a really valuable thing too. It's like Mid-Mod Marion, I was able to call Marion and say, hey, Mile High Living wants us to come on. And they had a specific segment. Or Nicole Brady locally, she wanted to have a thing on tariffs. Well, I don't want to talk about tariffs, but I know that my resellers care about that. So I could call one of my local girlies who does some videos for me and say, hey, can you go on TV? Be nice about ARC. Go into my store, but you guys do the interview, right? So that's a win-win for me. I didn't have to talk about tariffs and the poor economy. Right. I just have one of my wonderful young influencers who's a soon-to-be mom. She's pregnant as all get out, walking around shopping the children's. It's a great ad for me. It's great PR for me. So I think really creating relationships with people who make a living off of our stores or just love shopping has so many other benefits. It really, really does. I can't go on television every single month and talk about this and be thought of as, it comes off fake, right? I need to utilize someone like Marion who will sit next to me on a couch and talk about how thrifting is cool. Right. Again, that macro marketing, so valuable. And I'm just glad that the girls here in Denver and Colorado Springs are willing to play along with me in that. Yeah, it's kind of a stretch, but the news loves it. It's funky. It helps their business. It helps my business. It's a win-win.
I don't think it's a stretch at all, actually. I think the one of the only industries that is not going to be hurt by the recession and may actually benefit from tariffs is the secondhand market.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a stretch at all. We've been saying that in our content for the past several weeks while it's been obviously forefront in people's minds. You know, in fact, I think that we may see a bump in sales by the end of this year, kind of like we did in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, I'm hoping, girl. I'm hoping.
I really think that that's going to be a direct result of what the tariffs have done to their big box stores and will do the big box stores. So yeah. I think that that's actually going to be one spot where I can say it's a benefit for the secondhand market.
I agree with you.
I'm going to cross my fingers on that too. We're really hoping to see that as well. You know, we are nervous about donations. I would say, you know, right now we're in our tsunami season and it's looking that way, especially with the change in weather. But gosh, you know, what if people start holding onto their stuff? Question mark, you know? So we're being wary of the whole thing. But you're absolutely right. We're going to capitalize. If the news calls me and wants to talk about this, I'll find a way to say, you're upset? Yeah. Come to the thrift store. I am going to be all over that when the opportunity presents itself. I will do the interview. I will find the influencer that's benefiting from this as well and is feeling it at the big box stores and choosing us
secondhand. If your shelves are empty, shop secondhand. Yeah. If you want that perfect gift for someone come holiday season, shop secondhand. There's definitely a narrative to create around it for sure.
Yeah. And it's just, again, an evolution. We'll see what happens. I do, you know, I'm on the lookout to make sure we don't see too much fast fashion on our floors. So that'll be interesting, but we've always had it. So, you know, we'll see.
You dig past it. We dig past it.
We dig past it every day.
And that's where that volume comes in, right?
Right.
And really that quality, because that's what we do first. Quality and condition is our first question. It's not brand.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I've said it before when we've talked about ARC in the past, and I will say you are far more likely to find a ripped, holey, stained, smelly, gross item, not just at the bins, but on the racks in other places. You will not find that at ARC. And in fact, Katie and I both said this to you before. We want to shop your rejects.
Yeah.
Because they're
Everyone
so
does,
that they wouldn't put it out on the floor, but it's not bad enough that I probably wouldn't have bought it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is a different mindset. You know, our competitors really do brand first. And that is not our mandate, is condition and quality first. And when you do it that way, you are eliminating, and it's so funny. I've got this intern right now. You guys met him, Riley, and he's like so upset. He wants to look at the raggers.
Yeah, just like Katie. Yeah. He wants the throwbacks.
and I totally get it, because he'll sell something for $200 that's stained or ripped
and
or
ripped
whatever.
And torn.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, you know, every once in a while, you never know, Riley could be the one that gets Lloyd's attention on that. You know, he
could be doing pallet sales for you.
And you never know. He could be the kid to do that. Lloyd is fascinated with him and his business. You know, I'm actually interviewing him this week on the pod. The first person I will send that to is Lloyd Lewis, because I know that Riley's going to bring that up. You know, we're in evolution too. ARC is an evolution. We may get to that point, you know, that may be phase 3 for us. We don't know. And we're open to that feedback. You know, there are still things. I'm not going to say we're perfect ever, because we're just not. We are evolving and we have a lot of things to improve upon. But I always say to the resellers, to anyone shopping, just be patient with us as we learn and figure it out. 10 years from now, this business is going to look totally different. It looked different 10 years ago. So evolution. And it's exciting. Hopefully this is a business that is here to stay. That's really my goal. I want it to be here for my kids' kids.
I'm sure it will be.
I think it will be.
Me too.
I think we're going to continue to grow and evolve and change. And the symbiosis of this type of relationship will only get stronger and better over time.
Yep.
Agree.
Yep. I love it. And you guys are always so cool to include me. I always say I'm a voyeur in your world. You guys always include me in stuff. You make me feel like I'm part of the group, even though, I could be perceived as, the outsider. So thank you for that. You guys have been
Well,
very
no,
welcome.
we greatly, from the minute I met you, I greatly appreciate your role in the reseller community and what you do to help improve it and help resellers. It's very different. As you know, as we've talked about, it's very different than what we receive and see from other retailers. And I think it's important to highlight that because it helps everyone. It will help you, your company, and it helps resellers as well. Resellers need to know that ARC exists and that they're there to help. And I think that the mutually beneficial relationship can only get stronger from here. So,
and more than that, I think it shows resellers behind the curtain a little bit about how things work, why they are the way they are. I think we all have met the resellers who are just like, well, everything's too expensive.
Everything, it's just been donated.
It's donated. Just give it to me for $1. They don't understand the work that goes behind it and how many kind of back and forth, right? Like I was talking about the reseller jobs, also the jobs that you have for people who work for you. And it can be mutually beneficial. Just everyone needs to understand where the other people are coming from.
Yeah, there's a role, there's overhead, there's your employees. You pay them a fair living wage. I do know this.
Yes.
They are not just minimum wage or below minimum wage employees.
Yep.
The cost of living in Colorado is higher than it is in a lot of other parts of the country. And they make sure that their employees are able to survive on what they make there. And I think that's really important. Not just the services provided by the money that is made by ARC.
That's even more.
That's even beyond
right.
that the goal of the ARC, covenant, so to speak, is runs the gamut. And I think that people need to understand that it's not just it's not just your normal thrift store. That's all.
Yeah. And I am really proud. One of the things we talk about is 20% of our workforce identifies as having a disability. So when you're talking about people who may need a buddy or a job coach and may need special accommodations, that's pretty powerful too. I love that. 500 people on our payroll who, as you said, do not make sub minimum wage. It's at or above minimum wage, depending on the job that you have. And we don't do interviews, we do conversations. We get to know someone who is on the spectrum who might love CDs or is totally into kids' clothes, whatever it is. We find the job that fits them, and that takes money, and it's worth it. It really,
it's a very specialized thing that you do. I mean, you're going to choke me up. That's very special that you take the time to do that. And God, I'm a wuss.
Vic is a wuss lately. I just want you to know she is crying.
Menopause. I don't know what it is. But seriously, that's a really special thing. Yep. I think we all know people that live and exist on some form of the spectrum in some way. And I think it's really important to enable people to be autonomous and to help them be the best people that they can be in a role that is specific for them. And I think it's amazing because there are not a lot of companies or opportunities out there that do that. So it is a special thing.
No, it is. I was just giving you crap because you were crying again.
I do. I cry at everything. I'm a big baby.
And let me tell you, it means something really special when you get a paycheck. That having a purpose or reason to get up in the morning, best thing ever. Best thing.
No,
ever.
I think it's amazing. Yeah. So before I cry anymore, thanks for taking the time to do this wrap up with us. I knew that there was so much that we did not. I mean, I've heard a lot of this from you before, but I know Trish hadn't, and our audience in general hadn't. I want them to be able to hear more about it. Because I do think ARC is really special, and I think you're really special. I love what you do for the company. I love how powerful you are and how adamant you are about including resellers and about being inclusive and welcoming and making sure that messaging is heard. So that's important. What does the reselling community mean to you, and how do you see your relationship? How do you see a relationship between your organization and the reselling community?
Okay. So the eBay resellers that frequent our stores and shop our stores and make a living from shopping our stores are a critical piece of ARC Thrift Store's puzzle. We rely on our customers, and we know that our eBay resellers specifically shop more often. They don't care necessarily about our discount days. They're likely willing to pay a premium, and they buy more. So to us, an eBay reseller is a really valuable and critical part of the ARC family.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. We
That's
do
good.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Maggie.
guys. You guys are the
Thank
best.
you so
Thanks
much,
for
Maggie.
including me.
We really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
anytime.